Hello and welcome to the Musical Instrument Investigator. Today on the website of Ingles Hayday Auctioneers based in the UK, we're going to have a look at their latest auction, which is fine musical instruments. So those of you that don't know, Ingles Hayday is one of the the top auction houses in regards to bowed stringed instruments in the world. The guys that run it are former Sotheby's auctioneers, so it really is quite a prestigious auction, and they usually have some pretty good stuff. I think they only have 2 auctions a year, so they're very selective about what they have, so it should be pretty good. This particular auction is finishing on the 26th of March. It's the 8th today, so you've got loads of time. Definitely worth viewing this auction in person if you can. Usually happens at some point in March in London, alongside all of the other auctions that are going on in London at the time. Definitely cool to view. So yeah, 166 lots I think in this auction, so pretty sizable actually given the kind of quality. Not crazy numbers, but very significant. So as I said, this is a UK based auction, so bear that in mind if you are looking to bid and you're from overseas. Import export fees, shipping, maybe CITES restrictions as well, all very important. Buyer's premium on this auction is 20%, so that's what you pay on top of the final hammer price. You can get condition reports on request, etc., and some of these lots I think have videos, etc., so lots of extra stuff that you can look at. But we're just going to get into it and just have a look at all the lots, or as many as we can, and see if there's anything interesting. If you do like these videos, please consider liking, subscribing, commenting, turning on notifications, all of that fun stuff, because it really does help quite a lot. So yeah, just a reminder, this auction finishing on the 26th of March, so lots of time left to browse. I'll put a link in the description to the catalogue, so do check it out. Like I said, one of the top level auction houses to do with bowed stringed instruments, so should be a good one. Right, that's enough of me talking anyway, so let's just crack on. So we've got 2 copies here of Eric Blott's Luteria Italiana 1994 to 1997. These will sell pretty well. For those of you that don't know, Eric Blott is kind of really respected expert in violins, especially more modern Italian violins, and I believe he is currently in Cremona, so you know, these as reference books are quite handy. Then we've got the Sidney Bowden book on Pajot, so bow maker there. Now we have Dimitri Gindin, The Modern Italian Violin Makers, London 2022. This always goes for like crazy money. So Dimitri Gindin, I think based in London at the moment. I think he's been based in some other places before at some point, but I think he's in London at the moment. A bit like Eric Blott, kind of one of the world's leading experts, especially in regards to kind of modern Italian violins. So that would be a really interesting book to look at, but way too expensive for my budget. We've got the old Hill Guarneri book there. Looks like there's something else as well here. Together with a Gianfranco Baretti book on Sesto Rocci, Life for Violin Making. So there you go. We've got Arthur Bultitude in the Hill tradition. Arthur Bultitude was a Hill bow maker for some period, so that's that. Studio photograph of Karl Flesch by Hansi Hermann, Berlin. Studio photograph and autograph of Yasser Heifetz. Then we've got print of Niccolo Paganini, photograph and autograph of Pablo de Sarasate, photograph and autograph of Jacques Thibault, signed photograph of Eugene Ysaÿe. So interesting. Anyway, we're on to instruments now. Let's see what we've got. So like I said, you can request condition reports, sound samples, all of that kind of stuff, but we're not going to get into that because otherwise we'll be here forever. So a violin after a Marty, probably by Francois Corsat. Mircourt, circa 1860, 35.9 length back. A violin bow in case also comes with this as well. So you can see a nice looking violin, nice quality of images always in the Ingles Hayday. They do put on a nice auction. Right, a violin, probably by Joseph Thomas Klotz. Mittenwald, circa 1780, 35.4, 7 to 10 on that. This kind of looks familiar for some reason, I don't know why, but I think the Klotz stuff is pretty decent, to be fair. So make a good instrument for someone. A violin after Stradivari by Anton Wittmann, Vienna, 1928. Get a violin bow stamped of Arnold Voigt as well with that, 4 to 6,000 on that. Nice back. Nice scroll as well. Do my best to get through the catalogue as quickly as possible, but might take a while. Right, a violin, Circle of Georges Chanot I, Paris, mid-19th century. And a violin bow in a case. Nice looking back there, 6 to 8. 35.4, so it was quite a reasonable length of back. I feel like you get kind of some good value in instruments when you're in this kind of like 5 to 10,000 bracket, rather than chasing stuff which is half broken at the lower end or stuff which is ridiculous at the higher end. But even this is too much for me, really, unfortunately. Violin by Charles Jean-Baptiste Colomazat I, Paris, 1898. 4 to 6 on this. Nice back on that. These are really popular. They sell really well. Yeah, nice looking example. I shall say no more. Violin by Tullio Rovescali, probably completely destroyed that. Milan, circa 1930, 35.6, 10 to 15,000 on that. I don't know why a lot of these things are really starting to look very familiar. Either I've been looking at too many instruments and I'm just going mad, or a lot of this stuff is doing the circles, but hard to know. A violin by Francesco Gobetti, Venice, circa 1720, 35.1 on that. 30 to 50,000 on that. That's really beautiful looking. I really like these F holes actually. Nice. So we're in a bit more of a top tier thing there, or not top tier but higher tier. Violin by Giorgio Corsini, Rome, 1985, and a violin bow by the same maker, 35.6 on that. Nice kind of back on that. Looks fairly respectable, 5 to 7,000 pounds on that. I hope I've been saying pounds earlier and not euros. I'm a bit stuck in Eurozone at the moment. A violin by Franz Geisenhoff, Vienna, 1812, 35.8. One of the really respected Viennese makers there, so hence the pretty high estimate. Once again, so far, all really nice examples in this auction. So they're pretty well curated, Ingles and Hayday. Violin by Paul Alexandre Margenot, Paris, 1900, 3 to 5. Once again, French stuff really popular at the moment. Anyone that watches this channel knows I am not really a fan, being honest, but we carry on. Violin by Pietro Grulli, Cremona, 1890. Certificate of Dimitri Gindin there, 20 to 30 on that. See. There we go. I'm pretty sure I've seen that before as well, but once again, might be just going mad. Violin by Justin Derazy, Mirko, 1880, 35.8, 4 to 6 on that. Once again, I'm sure that'll be fairly popular. Violin probably by Vincenzo Venaccia, Naples, circa 1790, 36 length of back, which is quite interesting. It's quite long for an Italian. Really nice front on that though. So far I haven't seen anything that's really blowing my mind, but definitely a few interesting things so far. Right, a violin by Giuseppe Pedrazzini, Milan, 1928, sold with the certificate of Dimitri Gindin, 2019, provenance, 35 to 50,000 on that. Violin was for many years in the collection of Emil Friedman, a Czech violinist who emigrated to Caracas in 1945 and is celebrated for his contribution to music education in Venezuela. He also owned the Bertucca Stradivari of 1732. Interesting. Okay, yeah, interesting enough there. Early 20th century Italian, doing pretty well on the valuation front. Violin by Vincenzo Bisolotti, Cremona, 1982, 6 to 8 on that, 35.6. I'm into modern Italian territory here. Look at that's really interesting chamfers on that scroll. They're very heavy chamfers. It's quite interesting to note. A violin by Celeste Ferrotti, Milan, 1907, 35.7 there, 18 to 25,000 on that. Curious enough. And moving on to the next one here. So here we have a child size violin, or a child's violin, probably by Lorenzo Storioni. So it could be Cremona, circa 1770. I think it's got a Landolfi label, so 29.6 centimeters, 4 to 6,000 on that. Kind of curious looking thing, isn't it? It's pretty bonkers. Yeah, very interesting indeed. Well, if you're in the market for an old Italian child size violin, that could very well be the one for you. What do we have next? It's a little bit slow on the internet front, unfortunately. Violin Circle of John Betts, London, circa 1800. Labelled T. Dodd there, 35.7. Certificate of LP Baumfuth and Sons, 4 to 6 on that. Have a look at a few more pictures. Okay. A Violin After Seraphine by Pierre Joseph Hell, Lille, 1896. Okie dokie. Copy de Santo Serafin. Let's have a look here. 18 to 25,000 on that. Joseph Hell stuff seems to always sell pretty well. Violin by Annibale Fagnola, Turin, 1927. 35.3 length back then, 90 to 130,000. Really popular 20th century maker there. Really, that's a really beautiful varnish actually on this. I'll be quite interested to see this violin in person. I'm pretty sure I've seen a Fagnola before at one of the Brompton sales, but I wasn't really too impressed. But this really nice colour varnish actually. The one I remember seeing, I think, was really red and not particularly nice. I might be getting confused because my brain is failing, but yeah, nice looking violin if you have 90 to 130,000 pounds floating about. Violin probably by Enrico Veronesi, Udine, 1931, not a maker I've heard of before. Proceeds of the sale of this instrument will be donated to the charity Aquabox, which provides safe drinking water to people affected by natural disasters, I presume. So yeah, pretty cool. 5 to 8,000. So do your bit, buy an Italian violin and give people drinking water. Quite a nice scroll on that. It's kind of a curious looking one. Quite like the F holes as well. Yeah, this I'm not against either. It's kind of curious. It's got some individuality. Violin by Auguste Sebastian Philippe Bernardel, Paris, 1827, 35.8 length, about 8 to 12. Another one of the good French makers here. This I think I like a bit more than some of the other French stuff. Really nice with their nice making. A violin by Wilhelm Thomas Theodor Jaurer, Vienna 1904. Lots of these names are very familiar. Pretty sure that some of these have been in other auctions, or at least instruments by the same maker. 4 to 6. A violin by Luigi Galimberti, Milan 1925. 15 to 20,000 there. Certificate with Runing and Son there of Boston. Quite well known dealers, and Chris Runing there, one of the world's leading experts on violins. Yep, okay. A violin by Francesco Ruggeri and Sons, Cremona, 1690 to 1700. And a violin bow in case. Sticker of Peter Bidoff, some other letters and stuff. 70 to 100,000. That's a nice looking back there. That's kind of interesting back. Now we're getting into some nice territory. Yeah, cool F holes on that. Let's have a look at the scroll. Yeah, that's very nice. Characterful scroll. Yeah, nice looking violin there. That's a good lot. Violin attributed to Gaetano Garda, 5 to 7. Won't go into the story here, but those of you who know that it's complicated sometimes with Garda related things. Let's have a look what we've got next. A violin, Naples, circa 1900, 7 to 10 on that. Vincenzo Galliano label, and a carbon fibre bow in case. Okay, fair enough. So many of these things just looked too familiar, but I surely can't have seen all of these things before, so I am clearly going mad. A violin probably by Giovanni Gaida, London, circa 1910, 35.6, 4 to 6 on this. Okay. A violin by Georges Chanot I, Paris 1844, with 2 violin bows in a case, 25 to 35 on that. Popular maker. Actually do like the Chanot family stuff, I have to say. It is pretty nice. A violin by Nicola Galliano, Naples, 1780, 140 to 180,000 on that. High level Galliano family instrument here. Hill certificate. Everything just looks too familiar. I just don't know what's going on anymore. I'm just not going to comment. Everything I'm just like, that looks familiar. But I'm sure it's not. I think I am actually just going mad. A violin after the Messiah Stradivari by Jean-Baptiste Vuillaume, Paris 1856, 35.7 length of back. It's in Sotheby's, an exhibition of the work of J.B. Vuillaume, London, 160 to 220,000. Ex Olivier Jacques. Yeah, I mean, this is kind of a weird one to me. It's just like a little bit uninspiring. I'll be honest, I really don't like the back choice of wood on this. I don't know why, it just reminds me of like a trade violin of some kind. I just don't know. I just can't. It just doesn't work for me. You see the nice pins and stuff in the back there, so that's good to see. But the actual choice, this figure, I don't know. I just really doesn't look nice to me personally. Right, we've got a few bows actually. I forgot about bows. Nickel mounted violin bow by Emile Auguste Houchard there. Certificate of Cabinet d'Archetier, so the Raffin certificate basically, 1500 to 2000 there. Silver mounted violin bow by Francois Lot, Pierre Guillaume. We see the same names every time, but you know, these are good names, good certificates to have. 1800 to 2500 there. Silver mounted violin bow by W.E. Hills and Sons, London 1944, 1500 to 2000 there. Silver mounted violin bow by Hill and Sons again, 1910, slightly earlier one, 3 to 5. Silver and tortoiseshell mounted violin bow by W.E. Hill and Sons, 1910 again, 2 to 3 on that. Tortoiseshell on the hill bows usually denotes kind of slightly higher level bow, I think, ordinarily. Right, lots of hill bows here, another tortoiseshell one here, 1800 to 2.5, there, 1926. Here's your kind of restrictions on tortoiseshell. I just think tortoiseshell ivory, just not a good idea in this day and age. Silver mounted violin bow by Garner Wilson, Bury St Edmunds, circa 1970, 1500 to 2000 on that. Silver mounted violin bow by H.R. Frechner, Mark Newkirk, in 1900, 1500 to 2000. And silver mounted violin bow by Jules Fatigue, Paris, circa 1935. Pierre Guillaume certificate here, describing the bow as an outstanding example of the maker's work there, 12 to 18, so we're into kind of bigger territory there. Gold mounted violin bow by Jules Fatigue, 22 to 25,000 there. Bernard Millant certificate there, describing the bow as a beau et rare specimen, so beautiful and rare specimen. Interesting. Gold mounted violin bow by Emile Auguste Auchard, so 10 to 15,000 there. Raffin certificate basically. And anyone that doesn't know, in general, you know, the better you think, you know, your stick is or your wood is, you're going to kind of put the finest quality mounts on it. So the best sticks would historically get gold mounts, then middle like kind of silver, and you know, lower might get nickel, or some workshops just never did like nickel at all. There might just be silver and gold only, and then tortoiseshell or ivory, etc. Silver mounted violin bow by Dominique Pacat here, 25 to 35,000. We're in the territory there. Isaac Salcher in New York, one of the respected American experts on bows. Silver mounted violin bow by Hill and Sons again. You never really, like, hill bows are so kind of like distinctive and so plentiful that, you know, they just don't seem to really have certificates with them or needed, to be honest. So round stick, plain ebony frog, silver overlaid adjuster. See, I always thought that these adjusters, because this is a lower level hill bow, like a kind of plain frog, very simple hill stamp, I always think that these adjusters were aluminium, but I could be wrong. But this is a kind of a simple hill bow. Right, a silver and tortoiseshell mounted violin bow by Arthur Richard Bultitude. There you go. One of the hill makers as well. Nice tortoiseshell frog there. They've got a license for it there. 1400 to 1800. It'd be nice to see the condition report on that. Silver mounted violin bow by Charles Claude Husson, the second there. 1800 to 2.5. Nickel mounted violin bow by Emile Auguste Auchard there, 3.5 to 5. Pierre Guillaume certificate as well. Silver mounted violin bow by Emile Francois Auchard, Guillaume certificate again, 2.5 to 3.5. Silver mounted violin bow, Pajot School, 2.5 to 3.5 there. Sold with the certificate of Pierre Tester. Not really 100% sure who that is. The name's familiar, but a little bit out of my knowledge sphere there. Gold mounted violin bow by Albert Nürnberger, Mark Newkirk in 1930. Adjuster with 2 gold bands, 1500 to 2,500. I always tell people, but some of these German bows are really, really good and quite undervalued. Nürnberger stuff is really great. Nickel mounted violin bow by Morizon Frère, 1950s, 1500 to 2000. Pierre Guillaume certificate there. Nickel mounted violin bow by Charles Louis Bazin. Another Pierre Guillaume, 1500 to 2000. Silver mounted violin bow by Eugene Sartori there. Sold with the certificate of Jean-Francois Raffin. 3 to 5. There must be some issue here then, surely, if it's like that low. Roundstick, the Ebony Frog by Louis Gillet with silver rings and pearl eyes, silver overlaid adjuster. Yeah, I think there must be something going on with this for it to be that low, even if it has a frog by someone else. It just seems like an exceptionally low estimate, so I would definitely look at the condition report on that, but we're not going to do it now. Silver Mountain Violin by Eugene Sartre again. It's really strange, 2.5 to 4,000. I mean, that's heavy. You can see here heavy wear there, so I think definitely look at the condition reports here. Yeah, there's something odd is going on. Also quite heavy, to be honest, but yeah, strange. Silver Mountain Violin bow by Eugene Sartre again. Please note the weight of this bow has been amended to 59 grams. Right, well, what was it before? 5 to 7. I mean, even that is quite low. I would expect 10 to 15. Obviously, condition dependent, but yeah, curious. Silver Mountain Violin bow by Joseph Arthur Vigneron there. 5 to 8. Right, we're into instruments. Ex Norman Rosenberg, so from the Rosenberg sale, a cello, Prague School, circa 1870, 426. So a few things coming back to auction already. Cello by Joseph Hill, 10 to 15,000, circa 1770. I think these Joseph Hill cellos are quite cool. A cello, Vienna, mid-19th century there, 6 to 8. Okay. Cello by Charles Jean-Baptiste Colomazar III. Miracle 1928, 8 to 12 on that. Maybe the Colomazar cellos are not quite as popular as the violins. A cello by John Frederick Lott the First, 40 to 60,000. One of the really good English makers. Nice looking cello there. A cello, France, circa 1880, 5 to 8 on that. This I don't mind so much. I think it's quite nice as well. A cello after Stradivari by Dawn Haddad, Cremona, 1987. Sold with certificate of the maker, 7 to 10,000. Cremona from 1978 and Cape Town from 1991. A cello, Netherlands, circa 1760. 8 to 12. Pretty interesting outline on that, isn't it? It's a bit of an oddity. A cello attributed to Giovanni Battista Cerruti, late 19th century, 12 to 16,000. So just to say, if an instrument says attributed, it just basically means that someone in the past has said that it was by this maker, but currently people don't really agree. Cello by Carlo Antonio Testore, Milan, mid-18th century. A couple of certificates there, 60 to 80,000. Do you like Testore stuff? Though I think I much prefer violins to the cellos. Cello by George M. Gavalda, Lausanne, 1938. A cello with a cello bow stamped Roger Jerome, So Switzerland there, 8 to 12,000. Cello by Thomas Dodd, London circa 1800, 28 to 35,000 on that. A cello by Jean-Baptiste Vuillaume, Paris 1862, 200 to 300,000, ex voto. Sold with a provenance letter from the Votom's family. Interesting. Right, bows again. Silver mounted cello bow by Albert Nürnberger there, 1800 to 2.5. Get another bow with that one actually as well. Interesting. Silver mounted cello bow probably by John Dodd, 2 to 3,000 on that. Silver mounted cello bow, Finkel Workshop. So Swiss bow that can be pretty good though, 1,500 to 2,000. Silver mounted cello bow by Joseph Alfred Lamy, 7 to 10 on that. Raffin certificate on that one. Silver mounted cello bow by Claude Thomasin, 2.5 to 3.5. You get another bow with that one as well. Nickel mounted cello bow by Nicolas Simon, 6 to 8. Pierre Guillaume certificate. Silver mounted cello bow by E.F. and E.A. Houchard, 3.5 to 5 on that. Silver mounted cello bow by Francois Javier Tort. Wow, okay, we're into some crazy territory here. 50 to 70,000 on that. Paris circa 1795, the premier bow maker. Okay, plain ebony frog, just 2 silver bands. Sold with a copy of certificate of Kenneth Warren and a letter from Paul Childs, regarded expert, especially on Tort and other French bow makers there. Interesting. I think this might be the first time I've seen a Francois Javier Tort's cello bow. Yeah, that's interesting. Right, violas. I was wondering when they were going to appear. Viola by Vincenzo Bisolotti, Cremona 1980. Certificate of the maker. 7 to 10 on that. Once again, back with those real heavy chamfers. Kind of curious. A viola by Sebastian Dallinger, Vienna 1796. 7 to 10 on that. A viola, Naples, early 20th century, labelled Vincenzo Sanino, 6 to 8. Pretty cool back on that. It's got a Millant certificate there. Wonder if we can see this certificate. Well, yeah, not going to be able to read that one, so we'll ignore that. But anyway, that is there if you want to have a look at it. Quite cool scroll there. It's a bit of a curious one. A viola, Austria, 18th century, unlabelled. 43.2, that's pretty big, 7 to 10 on that. Actually, I didn't look what the previous one, oh, just screwed everything up there. Didn't quite see what the size of back there was. 40.5, I think I've been missing that out actually. It's good to comment on that. 38.8, yeah, that's quite small. And let's just remind ourselves of what the Bisolotti was. 41, that's pretty good. Anyway, returning to that slight issue there. Viola by János Toth, Budapest 1942, 40.7. Viola 33.5 to 5. And a viola by Edward Panormo, Brighton 1877, 4 to 6. Interesting. 40.1. That's really interesting. that an Edward Panormo would be so cheap in a way. That's kind of interesting. Yeah, that's kind of curious. A viola by Gandon Bernardel, Paris 1888, 10 to 15,000, 41.3. This definitely does look familiar though. This kind of washed out varnish, I'm pretty sure this was in another auction at some point. A viola, Circle of Charles Frank Langonnet, London circa 1920, 6 to 8 on that. A viola after Maggini, England circa 1850, 7 to 10 on that. Kind of curious looking one there. 43.8, that is pretty big though. A decorated viola by Caressa and Francais, 7 to 10 on that. 40 centimetres, that's no, oh, it's one of these prize ones. They're usually given out as a thing at the conservatoires or whatever. A viola by Richard Tobin, London 1820. Sold with certificate of J&A beer, 10 to 15 on that. 38.9, kind of smallish. Tobin's work's like really nice. I think it's good maker. Viola by Gaetano Scarabotto, Parma, circa 1920, certificate of Schroeder Geigenbau. Okay. 39.8 there, 35 to 50,000. We're getting a bit more higher in the stakes. I wonder if there's going to be any super nice back on that. Any super high level violas in this auction. Right, anyway, we're on to bows. A gold mounted viola bow by Christian Hans Carl Schmidt there, 1800 to 250. Silver mounted viola bow, Circle of Thomas Tubbs, 1500 to 2000 there. Nickel mounted viola bow by Charles Joseph Theodore Guinaud, 527. Quite a nice head on that. Silver mounted viola bow by Emile Auguste Auchard, 10 to 15. Silver mounted viola bow by Benoit Roland, Boston 2009, 8 to 12,000. Okay. A nickel mounted viola bow by Nicolas Maire, Paris circa 1840, 12 to 16,000. Pure Game certificate there. Ivory faceplate, so bear that in mind. Silver mounted viola bow by Joseph Henri, 18 to 25,000 there. Paul Child certificate. Okay. Silver mounted violin bow by Richard Grunker, 1500 to 2000. Another good German maker there. Gold mounted violin bow by Roger Jerome, Mirecourt, circa 1960, 1500 to 2000. Silver mounted violin bow by Charles Nicholas Bazar, Mirecourt, circa 1890. It's got a Raffin certificate there, 325. Nickel mounted violin bow by Charles Nicholas Bazar. Quite like the head on that as well, 1800 to 2.5. Silver mounted violin bow, by Charles Louis Bazar, 1800 to 2.5. Silver mounted violin bow by Charles Louis Bazar again, 1800 to 2.5. Silver mounted violin bow, Circle of Jean-Joseph Martin, 1200 to 1800. Silver mounted violin bow by of the Pajot school there, 1800 to 2.5. Sold with certificate of Jacques Poulot, Dijon, dated 2023. Okay. Attributing the bow to Jean-Dominique Adam. Okay. Interesting. I'm not sure who that person is. Silver mounted violin bow by Auguste Lenoble, Paris, circa 1890. Silver mounted violin bow by James Tubbs, London, 4 to 6 on that. Silver mounted violin bow by James Tubbs again, 4-6 on that. Gold mounted violin bow by Charles Edward Tubbs, 4-6. Sold with a valuation from Felix Vandal, London, 1973. Silver mounted violin bow, workshop of W.E. Hill and Sons. Silver overlaid adjuster. Okay. Felix Vandal again there, 1500 to 2.5. Silver mounted violin bow by James Tubbs, 1500 to 2000. Silver mounted violin bow by Jean-Joseph Martin, 325. Pierre Guillaume certificate on that one. Nickel mounted violin bow by Jean-Joseph Martin, 3-5. Silver mounted violin bow by Jean-Joseph Martin again, 4-6. Silver mounted violin bow by Jean-Joseph Martin again, 6-8. Nickel mounted violin bow, 1000 to 2000. Interesting. Silver mounted violin bow, 1500 to 2000. Silver mounted violin bow attributed to Jean-Joseph Martin, 1500 to 2000. Silver mounted violin bow by Pascal and Bernard Camarat. Okay, 1800 to 2.5. Silver mounted violin bow by Francois Lot, 1800 to 2.5. Nickel mounted violin bow by Louis Joseph Morizot, 1800 to 2.5. Silver mounted violin bow by Eugene Cunha-Huri, 1800 to 2.5 there. We're on to instruments again. A violin after Guarneri by Anton Whitman, Vienna, 1932, 4-6. Yeah, quite a nice back on that as well. And what have we got next? Violin by Azo Rovescali there. Okay, Crema, 1933, 7 to 10,000 on that one. Okay. A violin, Germany, circa 1920, sold with a valuation from Vinteling Geigenbau. 5-8 on that. Quite nice wood on that. It's a fairly tidy instrument. A violin by Paul Bailly, Paris, 1898. 8-12. Violin by Gerlando Tirana, Milan, 1954. 5-8. So quite heavy edge work there. Violin by Giovanni Dolenz, Trieste, 1850 to 60, 28 to 35,000 there. Quite nice back. A violin by Pietro Antonio Landolfi, Milan, circa 1780. And a violin by St. Nürnberger. Sold with certificate Florian Leonhard, London, dated 9th of February 2024. 35 to 50,000 on that. A violin by William Forster II, London, circa 1785. Sold a certificate of John Dilworth from 2020, 5 to 8,000 on that. Good maker, quite a nice looking violin. Violin by Gregorio Ancionazzi, Colla, circa 1730. The head later. Sold a certificate of Dimitri Gindin from not too long ago in 2024. Note the date of this violin has been amended to circa 1730, 12 to 16,000 on that. Let's have a look. Yeah, kind of interesting one. Let's have a look at the certificate here. The violin described and illustrated herein, in my opinion, an old Italian instrument made by Gregorio Ancionazzi. A rare example of this maker's work. Okay, interesting. A violin by Bernard Simon Fent the First, 4-6, 35.7. This seems like quite cheap actually for a Fent. Quite like this actually. Yeah, quite like this violin so far. Be interesting to see the condition report, but quite like that. A violin by Gaetano Vinaccia. Now this we definitely have seen before. This was actually in one of the previous Ingles and Hayday auction, and before that it was sold at the Amati auction, so I know you recognise this very well. Certificate of Dimitri Gindin as well, 25 to 35,000 on that. Actually quite a nice violin. There's something about the varnish on this violin which makes it look a bit dodgy in pictures, but I've seen this in person in the Amati sale, and actually it's quite a nice violin, so that's pretty cool. A violin, France circa 1900, with a Viola label. Interesting F holds on that, 5-7. Violin by Pietro Cateni, Livorno, circa 1785. Sold with certificate of Dimitri Gindin there. Note the date of this violin has been amended to 1785. Okay. Featured in Florian Leonhard's book, The Makers of Tuscany. Read more. 20 to 30,000 on that. Cool back choice there. Interesting wood. Quite cool on the front, and curious looking scroll. Interesting looking violin for sure. A violin by Giovanni Grancino, Milan, circa 1695, 35.4, 60 to 80,000 on that. Really great Milanese maker there. Nice looking instrument. Nice varnish. A violin, Central Italy, circa 1850, labelled Guastalla Dante. Certificate Florian Leonhard there, 5 to 8,000 on that. Definitely a cool scroll though. I like the cut of the scroll. That's quite interesting. 5 to 8. It's not too bad. A violin, Italy, early 19th century, labelled Aloisi Marconcini, 8 to 12,000. Cool back on that. That is an interesting back. That's a cool looking violin for sure. I like the crazy, slightly crazy F holes. That's pretty cool. A violin, Flemish, late 18th century, 5 to 8,000 on that. Bonkers F holes on that. Nice wood for the back. A violin, possibly Milan, 18th century, 10 to 15,000 on that. Another one that's a little bit curious looking, isn't it? Violin, Mirko, circa 1900, with an Ordino label there, 4 to 6. Violin by Auguste Sebastian Philippe Bernardel, 22 to 28,000 on that. Rampal certificate there. Yeah, really nice looking back there. Lovely scroll. I think that's a really nice example there. 35.9. It's getting on the larger side, but yeah, that's a really beautiful violin, I think. Violin by Goffredo Cappa Saluzzo, circa 1700. Lots of documents there, 70 to 100,000. That's a really nice instrument as well, 35.2. The head, probably by Santo Serafin. A violin after Jacob Raymond, England, 19th century, 4-6. Pretty cool F holes on that. A violin by Viola Brothers, London, circa 1900, labelled Paolo Antonio Testore. Certificate of John Dilworth, 10 to 15,000 on that. A violin probably by William Forster III, 3.5 to 5 on that. Labelled, this violin is in our judgment the work of William Forster, signed Hart and Sons. A violin by Angelo Soliani, Modena, circa 1800, 12 to 18,000 on that. Once again, really nice back on that. Interesting looking instrument. That's the kind of thing that I like to look for. That's a really cool looking instrument. Violin by Carlo Antonio Testore, Milan, circa 1750, 60 to 80 on that. Really awesome scroll. I do like any Testore family violins, are pretty cool. A violin after Maggini by Charles Jean Baptiste Colomazat II, 4-6. $36.2, it's quite big. Violin by Maurice Mermillot, sold at the Rampal certificate. That, wow, that's quite a strong varnish there, 6 to 8. I think we're getting towards the end of the auction now. Violin by Emile Lumbert, 4-6. A violin attributed to Gaetano Guadagnini II, North Italy, mid-19th century, 15 to 22,000 on that. 36.2 though, quite a large length of back. And here we are, the final one, a violin by Nicola Galliano. Again, I think it's the second one, isn't it? Naples, 1779, 60 to 80,000. Sold in an email citation from W.E. Hill & Sons 2023, stating that the instrument was cut down from a viola, and given the history since 1906, the violin was sold by Hills in 1906, 1953 and 1959. Interesting. How odd. So there we have it. That is the Ingles and Hayday sale for March. Yeah, pretty interesting. Some pretty nice stuff there for sure. Really interesting. Maybe not the greatest catalogue they've had. Some of the Rosenberg stuff was pretty epic and some other bits before, but solid auction for sure. Some interesting stuff. So I'll put a link in the description as always. Please check it out, see what you think. Thanks a lot for watching as always. Really appreciate it, and I'll catch you next time. Bye.